Welcome to another episode. This is a special one because we're in Berlin and we have the co-founder of LI.F right here with us. Philipp, thank you for joining us today.
Arjun, thank you for having me. Yeah, home turf.
How does it feel? Like after 4 years, we're doing the first ever LI.F event in Berlin, in your city, where everything started.
Yeah, it's fun because I most of the time in the past 4 years I spent outside Berlin. I spent my time abroad. I was traveling for the company to hire, to raise money, to close deals. So being here in Berlin in general is like a rare thing, but it feels great. Back then when we started here, there was only Gnosis, Parity is big here, Cosmos is big here, yeah, now LI.F is kind of big here.
I mean, LI.F is well known in Berlin. Like, does that make you feel good? Because like you've spent so much time in this city and now you have a work identity as well, and then people know you because of this company that you've built.
Yeah, I barely spend time here, so I never have that on my mind. But when I'm here speaking at a panel like this, Berlin Blockchain Week has been great. I had a bunch of panel opportunities. People after these panels came to me, hey man, like been following your journey over the past years. I've never seen you around. It's nice to meet you in person finally. So that definitely felt great. Yes.
And then, okay, so I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of go through LI.F's journey and then really dig deeper into your experience as a founder for the first time in crypto. Like I know you've built companies before this with Max for the last 10 years, but this was your first company in crypto, right? So I feel like there's a lot to learn from your experience and hopefully we can dig into that experience. Does that sound good?
Yeah, would love to.
Awesome. So like, okay, LI.F started as a hackathon project, right? So maybe take me back to that. Like, what was the crypto scene like 4 years ago?
Yeah, so when I joined the space, I joined the space by accident, essentially. A friend of mine has a YouTube channel. He tried new business ideas. He was calling me one day, knowing that I'm between projects, like searching for the next thing to build. And he was like, hey, have you heard of NBA Top Shots? Have you heard of NFTs? And there was this ETH global hackathon called NFT Hack. It was like 3-4 days over a weekend. I did that just to play around with it. So I was not even intentionally going to crypto for the sake of crypto. It was more like helping out a friend with a project from a developer perspective. I have an engineering background, been developing software for 20 years before I started building LI.F. Well, I built other companies, but always branching out as a founder. However, getting back to it. So after that weekend, I felt like, oh, this whole Web3 thing is kind of exciting. The hackathon was actually the first real hackathon I've done in 10 years or something. So it was very exciting to see how much is going on. And it felt like the web in 2002 when I started programming. Literally, everything was fragmented. You had to optimize the website's optics for each browser specifically. It sucked. It was so bad. And building in Web3 felt as shitty. For different reasons, but at the same time it felt exciting and I could smell the opportunity. Oh, there's something big, I want to understand it better. So I was calling Max, I was like, hey Max, that was so much fun this weekend. There's another hackathon which is around infrastructure, and Optimism was sponsoring it, Arbitrum was sponsoring, Connex was sponsoring it, and that went on for like 3-4 weeks. So we decided to join this second hackathon together this time. And then we were building on top of Connex. We saw Connex as a bridge, and it kind of made sense for us that bridges exist and that there will be multiple blockchains. And we were visualizing liquidity flows on that. And then Connex asked if they could hire us. And we're like, no, we're more like on the entrepreneurial side, but we'd love to build on you, and we like what we have been building. And they were like, here's a grant, $50,000. That kickstarted everything for us, right? And then that first year, we joined 13 different hackathons and built out LI.F step by step. And also the prize money was necessary to finance everything.
So you went on the whole hackathon circuit and like, what were you doing at those hackathons? Like, were you fine-tuning the LI.F idea or were you just playing around with different tools?
It was a mix. Wherever we could, we tried to build parts of LI.F, but also we were new to the industry. So literally 4 months in, I still couldn't explain how an AMM works. I was just joining the space, and I joined from an infrastructure perspective. I came from the bottom.
So it was like a crash course, basically.
It was a crash course, yeah. I was spending a lot of time catching up with DeFi, watching a variety of, I think there's this YouTube channel, Whiteboard Crypto or something.
Yes.
I was like watching these videos, trying to understand what's Uniswap, how does it work, catching up with everything. While in the meanwhile, the first competitor already popped out of the floor. And
So let's talk about Interop, right? Like 2021 Interop looked very different from what we know today, obviously. But you said you could sense an opportunity, right? So as an entrepreneur, what did you feel at that point where you were like, okay, maybe there is an opportunity to build a massive company here? Like, I want to get a sense of what did you see at that point?
The question is not in the first place, is there an opportunity? The question as a founder should be, is there a problem? Right? And then is that problem big enough to solve and big enough that other people would pay for it? Like, would this save someone time? And is this a growing problem? How big will this problem be? And our thesis was very early that in order to scale Ethereum, it has to be multi-chain. Like given the gas prices in 21, we knew, okay, this has to scale somehow horizontally like normal databases do too, right? So fragmentation was obvious for us. And then that there would be different contenders towards Ethereum was also obvious, like Solana came up, right? And other ones. So we're like, okay, fragmentation is imminent. And we, I think if we want to find adoption for applications, they would all at least need the ability to move assets around freely. And we don't want to build the bridge. We don't want to build the airline. We want to build Google Maps, the Skyscanner. We want to be the price comparison on top and give that to these applications. And that thesis and that product essentially never changed. 4 years in, same.
I mean, so what you're explaining sounds so obvious, right? But like in 2021, I was also in this space. And as a user, I could see that people are using Solana, people are using Ethereum. So there is definitely a need for a different user experience. Like every ecosystem provides something different, right? Like as a user, I'm maybe playing around with NFTs on Solana. I have all of my funds on Ethereum. So I could see myself that, okay, there is an opportunity here. But there were not a lot of teams that were betting on this future. So it feels like there was a 6-month period where everyone knew that there's more and more chains coming up. Bridges were starting to pop up. And I think like the first aggregator, like Li.Fi, also just popped up at the same time. So it feels like there was a consensus bet, but there was only a 6-month period where you could actually launch to have a head start. And you almost timed it perfectly. But like, was that intentional or just something that happened because you were there right at the right place at the right time?
I think it was just luck that we had the right timing. I mean, it was a good gut feeling about the market, and I think we had an understanding and a perspective on blockchains that many other people didn't have. Our perspective came from the database perspective. For us, blockchains were databases, and data fragmentation would play into very common problems when it comes to databases, like data integrity. And Max and I, we have been building companies in marketplace intelligence, in gaming, and in biotech before. So we come from a strong data background, if you want to say. We never saw it like that, but we kind of do. And I remember I spoke to like dozens of VCs that year in 21. Many of them were not believing that the future would be multi-chain. And in my head, I was just like laughing at that. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, it just felt obvious, right? But then it was a bet. Like I remember writing some of these, like even my message to you for the first time was, hey, I have a thesis on how the future will be multi-chain. And then to me, that was just an extension of a conversation I would have with friends. Like I have this thesis. It feels like there will be multiple chains because as a user, I'm using different chains. So it feels obvious. And then you were like, who is this guy? Why does he have a thesis when VCs do not have a thesis yet? And you were like kind enough to talk to me, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that coming from outside the space, this was so obvious, but maybe like people in the space got too into the details and they were like, okay, Ethereum maxis, Solana maxis, same chain maxis, and then they did not see this interop category kind of being this big opportunity that it has become 4 years later. So, okay, you've started the company. How did you go about hiring the first few people? Like, how should a founder actually think about hiring the first few people? Because it almost feels like that sets the tone, right? So what was your experience?
I think a founder should ask himself, so a founder has one job. And the number one job is the survival of the company. Very simple. Make the company survive. And that can express itself in many ways. It can be raise enough money. It can be become profitable. It can be sell the company. Right, whatever it is, like you set a goal, you need a goal, and we went for the venture capital route. If you go for venture capital, then your mission doesn't change. Let the company survive, but now you have runway and you have a certain time frame to deliver results, right? And you have to get an understanding. Well, I have an 18-month runway. I have roughly 10 to 12 months to build up significant growth. So that I can then spend 6 months on raising. During these 6 months, I need to keep up that growth. You have to ask yourself, who do I need to make that happen? So for me, it was obvious that I need salespeople early on. I was looking at what other people were doing in the space, and it was like they were not executing that well. So it there's no ultimate answer. Ultimately, yeah, whom do I need to hire to survive? So can I make myself replaceable that I can fundraise, and traction is still coming, so you need sales. And then it was also, I think, you just need to see what are your weaknesses, what's holding you back. So for me, I hired on a COO pretty early because I know that HR, operations, finances, administrative stuff is just not my strength. Absolutely not. I have a technical background. I have social skills. And this is my strength. I need to leverage that. And so I try to compensate for my weaknesses in the first place. This is, I think, a very important trait as a founder. It's just like understand what you're not good at.
This generation is good at understanding, okay, these are my weaknesses.
Yes.
And then I need someone else to kind of cover the gaps here.
This is what I need to survive.
Yeah.
And those are my weaknesses. And this is the money I have to compensate for these things. All right. And then,
But did you like tap into your existing network to hire the first few people, or did you, I don't know, hire the conventional way, reach out to VCs to help you out?
the first hire was a friend.
Okay.
Adrian was an old friend. I was like, hey, please, I need you. And then actually the second hire, a smart contract engineer, was someone I used to live together with on Bali by total coincidence. Back then I was in biotech. He was already in crypto, Ed. So Ed came on board. And then I had someone reaching out via Twitter, Akshay and you, like first BD, and you came to play because for me it was clear it's going to be a B2B company. And Max and I have always been building B2B companies, and the playbook of high quality content marketing, content recycling, like all of that was very familiar to us. So I knew how I wanted to execute this based on past experience, simply.
On the B2B angle, like from day one, you've been very clear that our focus is B2B, right? But if you look back at the bridging sector, consumer bridging is where a lot of the attention has been in the past 3 years, and a lot of the volume has come from the consumer bridging side. And one of the things that we got right early on was launching Jumper. So I want to go back to that moment where we were like kind of considering should we even launch Jumper or not? And then how do you see that situation? Like how it could have worked out differently if we had like not launched Jumper at all?
I was never a fan of launching a B2C product. For me, I always wanted to focus on just one thing. And I think having a B2C play alongside a B2B play is very distracting. Back then, I didn't see the space to be large enough in terms of participants to build a B2C product. And then I was asking myself, well, do I want to split my resources across two different gameplays? And at the same time, what's my mission here? So what I started over time, I started to believe in crypto, and my mission is to help the space to find adoption. So aggregating and abstracting everything away was an obvious move. That's what DeFi's core business is. So I was on a mission, and that mission was to create as big of an impact as possible. And for me, that was the B2B play.
But why?
Come again?
But why was that? Like, why were you so focused
Because
on B2B?
it's multiplicative, right? If I can sell this shovel, then I can help others, right? Like then we have a multiplicative effect. That's the beauty of B2B is essentially you're selling a shovel, you are accelerating that adoption for so many other players that all invest money into marketing, consumer marketing. So I would rather serve 100 front ends than having my own. But unfortunately, we had to learn that, and that was the reason for Jumper, right? We had transfer2.xyz, which was just a demo page. It didn't have a Twitter account. Then a competitor launched a B2C interface. And that B2C interface gave them so much volume that they had a better investor story. And I was like, oh, shit. And then I was talking to investors and figured that's all they look at. It's those numbers, and they don't care where they're coming from, literally. They literally turn blind eye to where it's coming from and how does it pay in the long run. And also, I have to say, many VCs in the space were very young and unexperienced. So you could tell as much of a strategy as possible. They just were jumping after what felt more, the numbers are prettier. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, but that is not as sustainable and whatever.
But it turned out to be the right decision. Now it's a strong arm for the company in a way.
It turned out to be the right decision, but imagine we would have these 18 people on LI.FI and not playing Jumper. And we had this additional resources the whole time. And, like LI.FI would be elsewhere. And we could have also gone down the stack and vertically integrating more. And, it had opportunity. It did great for us. Mm-hmm. It did amazing for us. But from a pure, how would I have loved to execute the company, Jumper wouldn't exist. not because not because I don't like the product. I love the product. I love the team, right? But
would you say
I'm still on a mission.
Yeah, but would you say it's a better thing that things happened this way and you were able to adapt? Because that's one of the core things for any founder, right? Like admitting that maybe in that moment you need to listen to others.
Yes.
Like you can still stick to your mission, but in that moment, Jumper is what the company needed, and that was the decision. And
Exactly.
you also listened to the team in a way.
Exactly, and that's how we did it, right? I was like, okay, I think that it's the right strategic move given these market dynamics and given this market landscape. This is the right move. That's why we made it, and we said if we do it, we're going to do it right. So we had a go-to-market strategy, we had a playbook, and we stuck with it. You know, we understood that once you start any marketing activity, you never stop, and you just have to follow through with it. And up until today, I think Jumper's execution was wonderful. I remember catching up to our competition within 3 months.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, the Twitter account was larger than the competition ones, and the numbers as well. So it was amazing. So yeah, it was definitely the right thing to do.
On the B2B and distribution side, like I feel in crypto, tech can be commoditized in a way. Like people catch up very quickly in crypto, and distribution is one of the biggest moats for any company. Today, Li.Fi has 400 companies that have integrated our product, right? Like if you look at the wallet sector, MetaMask, Phantom, Robinhood Wallet, Binance, Rabi, like the list goes on. Out of the top 20 wallets, we have 18 that are working with us, and then there are so many more partners. So in a way, your obsession for B2B did work out eventually. But how did you like find that first customer, and then how did you scale that? Because if anyone looks at our integration list today, it looks wonderful. But then that's not how it looked like 3 years ago, right? So how does one start with their first sales?
So the way we approached it was, well, we need to provide an outstanding experience. So actually we start with fundamentals like the technical documentation. The first 2-3 years I was maintaining our technical documentation. I was writing this. I was like, no, this needs to be written in a better way. This needs to be more descriptive. This needs more words, right? You know, developers are lazy. So, you know, I was taking what they were giving me and then we're just writing it out, and I would create extra pages and I would create comparisons and explanations and all of that. So I made it a number one priority that our technical documentation is on fleek. And that was the fundamental for me to provide a good developer experience for the people I'm selling to. And then it was a pure hustle. I was annoying our investors for introductions like no one else, literally. Every day, I was scanning their portfolio, I was asking for new investments, and I was asking for introductions. We also had good sales material, I believe. And then it was just a hustle and following up. And remember, I didn't even have a CRM. I was completely... We didn't even have a CRM. It wasn't needed because I was just following up with everyone every day. So I was obsessed. I think we lost some deals because I was too aggressive.
Yes.
I remember the 2-3 deals we lost because I was too aggressive. Learning curve. But also just like in the mode. You know, I wanted to keep that movement going. And it's also sales is motion, you know, and it's the energy, and you have to carry that forward day by day. And you know, you have to be omnipresent. And I was selling 24 hours as well. I was literally, there was not a single dinner with my girlfriend back then, ex-girlfriend now.
We can see why.
yeah. I was answering questions in real time, like good documentation, highly responsive, 24/7, across all time zones, very little sleep. I gained 12 kilo first year. So
I mean, I feel like people on Twitter talk about founder-led sales and founder-led marketing today. But when I think about our time at Li.Fi, like I can now see it, okay, like this guy was talking to all of our customers at the same time. There was no CRM, no like method. Like Twitter's way of saying it is like you were raw dogging sales.
I was, even though I had CRM experience, all of that, I just didn't find the time to set it up. And I didn't find the time to maintain it. And because the whole sales process was via Telegram, it was so fast-paced that I didn't find the time to maintain the CRM in the first place.
But that's a good way to maybe go to 100 integrations, right? Like that doesn't scale.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the teams, maybe because of the founder's obsession or the core team's obsession, they're able to get to that stage where they find the first few customers. But how do you scale that? Like how do you hire the right people for sales and then scale your distribution beyond like the first few obvious targets?
This is the thing. I think day one, you have to get to a company off the ground. You have to get from 0 to 1. And 0 to 1 means do things that don't scale, and you have to work like crazy. There's no way to prettify that. It's just like be obsessed and do the things that are really annoying. And then for me, I knew the most important hire in the execution of this B2B company would be the head of sales. So I was searching for a very senior person. I don't even remember, Gary was like the first one, very senior, and but that was maybe like too far away from what we wanted. A great guy though, and then we found Patrick eventually, someone that has led multiple software as a service companies to exit, high drive, and that's like. But it took me a while. I spoke to a bunch of candidates, but I knew the head of sales is going to be the most important factor.
But did you know that since the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
It was pretty clear that founder-led sales only works to get from 0 to 1. And then from there, you need someone that takes over. It's still founder-led sales, but sales needs to be managed and sales needs to be scaled. So you need to hire other salespeople, you need to onboard them, all of these things need processes. And you also have to think about things like pricing and so on. Of course, you can't do that as a CEO. I just don't recommend. It's just like depends on how big you're thinking. And I was always thinking this company very big from the get-go. I was like, there was not a single day where I was like, maybe we're going to be an SMB. No, I was like, this is going to be an enterprise. Day one, never changed, hasn't changed. And we're still small. We're 80 people, but we're still small. Like we're still kids. So I'm far away from being done. And I think that attitude always motivated people to stick with us. I mean, you have been around since day one, essentially, right? You know, there's still enough hunger and drive to just 10x this.
Honestly, that's all you can ask for. Like in a space like crypto where there are more, let's say, more bad companies than good companies.
Let's say more short-term thinkers than long-term thinkers.
Okay, maybe that's a better way to put it. But like if you can find yourself in an environment where you can trust people and they trust you, and there's good room for growth, that's literally all you can ask for. And then you just like put your head down and start working, right? Like, and there'll be so many career opportunities if you find that right setup. But maybe in crypto, that's harder to find than any other industry because of how our industry is split between like short-term focus and long-term focus. There are very few companies and founders that are long-term focused.
I agree. Yeah. No, very long-term perspective. And whenever I'm tired of the industry, I'm just getting more excited about building this company and scaling it, making it bigger. It's like I'm genuinely excited by building this company, by building this organism. That excites me. I just want to make this very big.
But that must take a toll on your personal life as well. So how do you actually manage that? Because it's not easy, right? Like if you're obsessed with one thing, you're taking away time from a lot of other important things. And because it's a long-term journey, how do you manage both of these things?
Building a company or being a founder, no matter if successful or not, is not glamorous. You might sleep in 5-star hotels, you might fly business class, you have that jet set life, but that is not glamorous. These long distance flights are really a toll on your immune system. You're constantly in your environment, constantly in your bed, that affects your sleep. You constantly have to ask yourself where to go for a run, how is that gym? Most hotel gyms suck. Where to eat healthy, how to eat healthy. You have to be very, very disciplined. And it cost me my relationship. I gained 10, 12 kilos in the first year. Took me a tough time to get back on track and then also find a way to building up muscles again, all of that, and just feeling comfortable in my own body. It took me a while. And changing priorities, maintaining friendships, especially crypto is so global, right? It's like, it's all over the place. It's from, Bogota to Mexico City to New York to Hong Kong, Tokyo, whatever. I've been all over the place and it is very, very exhausting. And it took me a lot of discipline to find processes and the right mindset on how to think about nutrition, exercise, and where to find and make space for these things. Right?
But does it get easier or do you just get better at managing it?
It's not getting easier. You get better at managing it. And ultimately it's up to you adjusting your priorities. I certainly burned out twice during building this company. All right. But and once you burn out once, you never fully recover. I feel like it comes back every few months. You get back into old behavioral patterns that have led you somewhere, right? You have the company successful. You're obviously still in a spot where you can actually burn out because things go well, or not so much. It's all relative also. I think managing your mindset and all of these things. I made over the past 2 years. I made a lot of space for mental and physical health, and that helped me a lot to grow. I think one important step for me was also to detach my self-worth from my company's success. Typically, founders have to overcompensate for something.
Can you ever do that though?
To a certain degree, not fully, but to a large degree, yes. Like over the past year, I invested a lot in myself in terms of what I'm wearing or like skincare or whatever it is, just taking care of yourself, and these processes, whatever it is, they help you to love you. They help you to just be okay with who you are, and understanding that a lot of these things in your company, in the market, you have no influence about that. It's also why it's important to hire people you trust, right?
Yes.
Like, how much am I looking over your shoulders?
Not at all.
How often are we catching up? Once every 4 months, literally, right?
When you burn out, like what helps you bounce back? Because I feel like, of course, a lot of people burn out, but a lot of people are not able to come back the same way that they were before. What has helped you in the past?
I always had a good toolbox of things I knew that I would have to tackle. Like, I know how to eat healthy. I know how to do sports and what sports I like. And I have tools like journaling. In times that I'm not doing well, I'm journaling, right? So I know I need to express my emotions and might need to make space for that. But ultimately, what helps you is making a very clear cut. Like, don't work at all. Like, don't even check in once. Like, take 10 days. Doesn't take much more, actually. 10, 14 days of not looking at your phone. You're not reachable. You write a text to your team. Next 10 days, I'm off. You are not allowed to call me unless we get hacked. Or whatever. Like, something that is so fundamentally crushing your company. Everything else, any deal, any investment, any whatever can wait. And you make sure that the few things you're not only responsible of are delegated. So with issues regarding finance, talk to that person, HR, talk to that person. No matter the size of the company, you can delegate these things probably.
But a lot of the founders I've talked to, they're not able to do that, right? Like it sounds so easy.
It's not easy. Tax discipline.
Like just take 10 days off, but they're not able to do that. It's like leaving your kid for 10 days and going on a vacation.
No, you have to be able to go back to a state of boredom, literally. When I did that, I was going crazy. I didn't know what to do with my time. I was incapable of watching Netflix. I was just bored.
I still can't watch Netflix.
Can't watch it. I was like too lazy to cook because I haven't cooked in 2 years. I was like, ugh, nah, not really, right? But then I started reading a book. I just stayed home. Also, you don't really I didn't need a vacation. I needed a staycation. I just needed to be home for once. And I just did nothing. I met friends. I went out partying, just like dance it off.
It's normal.
Meet your normal friends. Go to the cinema. Go alone if you find no one. Go to stand-up comedy. Do nice restaurants, or you walk in the park. Call your mom. Call your friends. Call all these friends you haven't called in a while, right? So 10 days you can fill easily if you want to, and you need to. In 10 days on a long-term horizon, it's nothing. And those 10 days are the best investment in you and therefore in your company. And that's also what our investors have always telling me, Phil, the number one thing that has to work for this company is you. So you book better hotels that have better gyms. Fly business class if you fly that often. Make sure that everything becomes more comfortable. I remember after the first year, I was talking to Lasse from 1KX, that was Zero Lasse. He said, I don't know, like, we're sleeping in these shitty 2-star hotels, and I'm getting fat. And he was like, no, man, you have to, like, everything you spend, see it in relation to your burn. And that's fine then. And it's okay that you take the business class flight a long distance because, like, you need to be fit the next day. You need to be there for your company. So whatever makes it happen, it's worth it.
How important is it to have VCs that actually understand this, like that it's important for a founder to feel good? So an investment in the company is basically a bet on the founder.
Exactly. And I would argue most founders don't have the directness to be that open on how they feel with their investors. I always made sure that I have a good relationship with my investors. I'm very open with my investors. You know, of course, you and your investors have different agendas, but but you also have the same agenda, which is making this company successful. There will always be times where these agendas are clashing, like when it comes to raising another round, closing the terms, like negotiating final terms, right? That's always where at some point you work against each other for a quick period of time, but ultimately you have the same agenda. So the more open you are with your investors, the better they can relate, better they can help. You're probably not the first time they see someone burning out or see someone struggling in any capacity, even with just whatever it is, hiring talent, being sad, being exhausted by the market, not understanding changing market dynamics, and they can help. They want to help. It's their job to help you whenever they can, right? And good investor will always be open, be like, hey, I understand you, or I don't understand you, but talk to him, talk to her. They can at least introduce you to other founders that can share their experience with you. That's the bare minimum any investor can do for you. And we are all humans. So the more you make yourself available in a sense, in terms of share your emotions, be open with them, it really helps.
Would you say finding good VCs for your company is one of the most important things you can do as a founder?
100%, yes.
But how do you figure out who's a good VC?
Talk to as many as possible, and then you get a good picture on the market and how people think about each other. I mean, VCs love to talk trash about one another. So it's very normal that one VC talks down another one, and they all have certain alliances. But you get the feeling, talk to many VCs. As a founder, your gut instinct and your ability to read people is one of your core skills, right? I think one of the core founder skills is having a high degree of empathy and being able to read people and understand who's trustworthy, who's not, who's integral, who has integrity, who has not. So you use that skill set on VCs and also talk to other founders. What's the feedback on other founders? So with all our VCs, I did due diligence myself. I was talking to other portfolio companies, and then you always ask for some introductions, but you also reach out to the ones you didn't get introduced to, right?
Yeah.
And it's a full-time job to get a good cap table.
And like you've also written about this, but you spent a lot of time raising money because it's a process, right? Like it's a grind. Like you get better with every pitch. In your experience, like what was the hardest part about raising money?
Well, first and foremost was we were new to this space. So I had zero network. Zero. Didn't know a single person. I went blindly to ECC, bumped into some German-speaking people, asked them for what they are, whom they know. And eventually I ended up meeting some investors. Hackathons helped me to get some attention as well. So these hackathons where we presented, as mentioned, we did 13 in the first year. That helped also to get exposure to VCs. We joined Kernel, Gitcoin, the Gitcoin program. That was also helpful. Yeah, do as much as you can to tap into as many networks as possible.
But like in your article, you were talking about how you went through maybe 200 calls with VCs to raise a Series A.
Yeah, that was a bear market. So it was.
So how do you like mentally prepare yourself for that? Because I mean, I know a few founders that have tried to do it, but it's such a mountain climb, right? Like it's a trek. Like how do you get to the summit when you can see it so far? Like a lot of people just cannot go through that mental hurdle where they're like, I cannot go through this pitch with 120 people, especially because you're getting rejection, right? It's not even like they're enjoying the pitch. Everyone is saying yes. No, everyone is saying no. So it's one of the hardest things that you can do as a person, as a human being.
Looking back, I might have been a complete sociopath. Like I don't know. I have no idea. Like that looking back, it was insane. It was just insane. Like Series A, I literally talked to. I was one of our investors was saying, okay, Philipp has exhausted the market. I was talking to each and every single fund that was still operating in this space, which was a great exercise, by the way. But also, there's no way to prepare for that. The way to prepare for that is to understand that this is your life now. This is, if you're in survival mode, you do what it takes to survive. And that means there's nothing else.
What kept you going?
The willpower, the belief in what we are building, and just an incredible amount of willpower to make that happen. It's willpower. What do you want in life? I've always been an entrepreneur, Arjun. Like I've been building companies since I'm 15 years old. After 15 years of failing, I was not willing to fail again because this time it actually felt right. Like the ideas I had in the past were all good, but timing was always a little bit off. This time I knew what I'm building is absolutely valid. It is a big problem. It is a growing problem. People will pay for that. And I I just knew I just knew what I was into, and I was not willing to give up. Not at all. Like I would have talked to 600 if that would have been necessary. Okay.
So it doesn't get any easier.
No.
As a founder, you just have to prepare yourself to go through it.
Yes.
Like it's like running into a wall, but you have to do it
Yes. You have to run through the wall.
for your team
Yes.
and for yourself, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So how do VCs look at Interop today? And how is it different from how they approached Interop 4 years ago? Because like we're talking about very different categories, right? Like we were talking about earlier, the future will be multi-chain was a thesis back in 2021. Today it's like obvious. There's 2 chains launching every day, every week. So how has the VC opinion changed on Interop?
I don't know if it's changed much. I believe that all major investors have placed their bets on certain Interop players, like on the bridging side. And then I think now it changed more towards, okay, what are enabling technologies for tomorrow's Interop solutions? So zero knowledge solutions, like Orange, Herodotus, Succinct, all these things, right? Like I think people have like that's also like the zero knowledge craze came after all of that, right? I think that was like the latest on this zero knowledge and intense. But again, like people have placed their bets, and I simply don't believe that Interop is a big topic right now for VCs.
Do you feel like we've matured enough as a category that we somewhat have winners, and in a way, VCs have placed their bets on certain winners to do well over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I believe that though there can come a new player around the corner at any time.
Do you still feel that?
Yeah.
Like I'm personally of the opinion we might not see another disruptive innovation in Interop.
It just takes a leap in innovation on certain things like proving, and that combined with a strong go-to-market strategy, and suddenly someone comes from the left. You don't see him. I've seen this in other markets.
Okay.
So I'm, right now it feels like, oh, we have these big fun companies, Layer Zero, Axelar and Wormhole, all sitting with 200 million there, and then Chainlink on top, and and L.I.F is also, we've raised a decent amount of money, we're big, 80 people, so it feels like, wow, that's a crowded space, and then those 20 bridges that are in there, still operating, still new coming around. As new ecosystems become more relevant, like Bitcoin, Sui, and so on, we see new bridges getting traction suddenly. They're going to establish themselves, and who knows, right? And there are these solutions like Double Zero and so on, and who knows what they're going to enable.
But do you feel, like I feel that we're in a very different part of the curve, like the adoption curve?
Innovation cycles have slowed down. I fully agree. And if you ask me, is Interop solved? I think to a large degree it is, right? But also it's hard to predict where the space is going. It's like, I saw a tweet 2 days ago. It says, the L2 bubble is bursting. So
What does that mean?
yeah, what does it mean, right? Like, but maybe mega ETH is enough.
To kind of like rekindle the whole narrative.
Yeah, to go back to settle on the most decentralized network we have,
Yeah.
which is Ethereum, and have the scale we need for large scale applications and top user experience. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it to reduce from 50 down to 10.
But we're already seeing some sort of like exhaustion in the space where earlier there would be a new company every month, whereas I'm not seeing many new players come up that often these days. Like maybe once a quarter, actually not even once a quarter. Like every year there's maybe 2 new companies like worth checking out. There are new narratives forming, and maybe there are new companies coming up aligned to those narratives. Like intents are a big topic, and then because of that, solvers have become so important. So there's tech, and there's like new players coming up for that solver ecosystem and for intents. But I'm not seeing any like generalized message passing bridges, for example. Like I'm not seeing another aggregator pop up.
Yes, I agree. Whereby we could argue Hyperlane came around the corner, even though Axelar, Layer Zero, Wormhole were so.
But that was still 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, no, I also don't see many new players coming around that. It's certainly saturated. Yes.
How do you see L.I.FI's position in this ecosystem? Because we've been around for 4 years. We have 400, 500 distribution partners. We're doing $3 billion in volume every 1 month. So we're growing still. But because there are also no new players coming up, so do you feel comfortable in LI.Fi's position, or do you feel like we have so far to go still that it's just the beginning?
Both.
Okay.
I feel very comfortable with our position, and there's so much more to go for. At the same time, I think I believe LI.Fi has an incredible market positioning, where there are still there's so many ways to bridge funds and to do same chain swaps, and now we're going to see order books coming back as well. There's so many things to aggregate, and that's again, what has LI.Fi been doing? We have been asking ourselves, what would any enterprise company love to build themselves? And that it would be, hey, they would want to have access to all prices possible, get the best price, increase their spread as much as possible. LI.Fi allows you to do that, right? And then with all these multi-chain token standards, there's more to do. And then there will be a next craze of RWAs with new token standards as well. Like the biggest upside is still to come. I think the biggest opportunity for LI.Fi will be RWAs. There will be so much more coming, new standards, conflicting standards, making that tradable, new exchanges just for that stuff. There will be so much. There's so much to come. It's day one for LI.Fi. Absolutely day one. Absolutely day one.
So do you see like a clear path where the volumes in the entire space will probably just 10x or 100x from here?
Yes.
Like there's no doubt in your mind.
No. Unless unless and not even regulation. No. It's really like the blockchain space is creating new rails for the global financial system. So we're just day one on moving over the traditional financial system, starting with cross-border payments, stablecoins, and then slowly we will tokenize more and more, make that tradable on those same rails. And they need DeFi. And then DeFi makes sense. DeFi is also very early. DeFi is day one, right? So LI.Fi has built the technical infrastructure to build and scale for that future. We have all the tooling, the customer support tooling. We have built everything this future financial system needs. It's an incredibly powerful engine we have built in a very powerful market positioning. So I really don't care if any more bridge gets more market share, whatever. All that doesn't matter to me. I couldn't care less. I truly believe, given our market positioning, no one else is as well positioned to win long term. And I think the investors that have invested in us, they understand that. They really understand that.
If you were a new founder right now looking at the Interop space, would you still bet on Interop being like this next big bet, or would you look at different sectors?
I mean, it is still a big bet if you have a differentiator, if you have...
If you were to make a new company, would you still work in Interop?
Probably not. I would still build a B2B company, but probably rather on application level.
Okay.
Than on infra. I wouldn't go down, I would go up. I think right now the opportunity is above us. Building that new neobank on stablecoin rails.
Interesting.
That stuff. B2B neobank.
How do you see like all of these traditional players like Stripe, Robinhood, name any traditional company that's massive? Like they're all entering crypto. As a founder who has a company in this space, how does that make you feel? Like, do you feel validated in a way, or do you feel worried that these guys are going to come and like try to eat your...
No, I'm not worried at all. If any, it's an opportunity, and LI.Fi has built something that's going to be very valuable for any of them. So also good from just that perspective. And I mean, they have always been here. Always been watching. Like Visa has been building in crypto for over 10 years. Right? They've always been here building POCs, figuring things out. But sometimes it just takes certain things as a catalyst. And maybe it's just like that Circle IPO that it's the catalyst. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a bubble. And the stablecoin bubble and will burst. But also that is okay. Because it's all a learning curve for a young industry. Going against a very mature industry, TradFi. And they're going to find each other. They're part of the same thing. Somehow.
I want to get your thoughts on marketing and building a brand in general, right? Because over the past 4 years, I've seen that that's a topic that you're very passionate about. But I've always wanted to ask, like, why? Why is that topic so close to your heart? Like, marketing in general.
Marketing? I don't know if marketing is so... It's just...
Like, you're very opinionated about some of the ways to do marketing, like build a brand.
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
No, I think I just learned the B2B software service playbook. It's just like, it's a playbook. Like, it's not my invention. It's like, it's a playbook, how to build B2B software as a service. We have learned that already. It's like e-commerce. We have learned that. We know already how to scale an e-commerce business. We know already how to build a software as a service. Of course, these things are constantly changing. Now you have AI tooling and you can optimize processes across the board and everything, and probably build better tech, better solutions. And people who are open enough to these new solutions, like, keep the playbook, change the tooling. That's probably a good attitude. And we're doing this internally already, right? Like, we're exploring so many things. It's great. And so it's not very opinionated. It's learned.
Okay. And how do you see the AI wave happening right now? Like, on an individual level and also on an organizational level, like, how are you playing the AI narrative, or like playing the AI innovation cycle?
For now, it's just efficiency gains and cost savings. From creating an advertising video
Yeah,
to,
that's going to be massive.
right?
Like, some of these videos are crazy.
To content creation for SEO. To, like, there's so much you can do.
I mean, SEO is changing in itself. Like, there's no search engine optimization. Like, the search engine has changed to your chat GPT.
It's not like AI engine optimization.
Yes.
yes, true. Also something to tackle. There's a lot. I think as regulations are changing, we can finally tap into more traditional channels like performance marketing, and I'm super. That is an art in itself. So super keen to explore these new channels. We have been denied for so many years. There is still so much room to grow.
Okay, just to wrap it up, like, 3 things from your experience of building Li.Fi that you would give as advice to a first-time founder who's just beginning to start his new company in crypto, as you were.
I should have looked into the question so I can give a good answer now. Now I have to.
Actually, this is not even there.
I have to think fast. In a remote world, the personal connection is a competitive advantage. Go to conferences, and people like to say, "Oh yeah, don't go to conferences. Like, stay at home and ship." Like, that's like the builder attitude. And yes, that's right. For your dev team, you as a founder, you have to be out there. You have to show up. There's a good rule which just says, as a CEO, you have only one task. And it is just show up. Just show up every day for your investors, your team, your customers. You show up. Your customer support is not answering. You are answering. Your investors need something. You're answering. Right? So whatever it is, just show up. And yes, that's advice. How to do conferences, advice on that. So the way I do conferences now is I'm booking myself a hotel in which I can actually do sports. I have a gym in there, so I can maintain mentally sane. I have good breakfast. I have a good gym. I book as many of my meetings in my own hotel lobby.
Sometimes you never even leave the hotel.
No, sometimes there is a full week in which I'm not leaving my hotel lobby. Literally, I'm letting as many people come to that hotel lobby as possible. Picking a good hotel makes that easier. And you have all of that then there, right? Like, people are coming to you, you have healthy food, and you have your gym there. And then I'm running, in average, 10 meetings a day there. 10 meetings a day, and then a dinner invite in the evening. If there's no dinner invite, I'm going to one side event, and my day is over at 10 p.m. At 10 p.m., my conference day is over. I go home. I have another hour I spend in front of the computer answering messages, reflecting, doing follow-ups, maintaining the CRM, doing my homework. Look at the next day, what other meetings, prepare a little bit if I need to prepare, check in on certain things, read CRM notes, whatever is necessary. By now everything is more structured in our company. And then the next day happens. So I'm avoiding everything that wastes my energy, and that is talking to any unnecessary person. It sounds very antisocial, and it is. Yeah. I need my energy. I need to answer my customers, my team, my investors, and I'm there to meet the most important people to move this get this company to the next step, right? Only the most important deals I make time for, and I always make time for altruism. It's like helping other founders. Many founders are reaching out to me on a daily basis, asking for advice, asking for introductions and whatsoever. And I take time for them. I give them people to the pitch deck. I do that. That's also, that's passing it forward. I like to do that because I got so much help and so much advice and so many introductions in the past. So I'm grateful for that. I'm so happy to pay it forward, but you need to set boundaries. So show up and do the conference thing. Do it right. It's the second thing. And the third advice is probably, and I'm the worst person to say that, take breaks. Take breaks. My co-founder is incredibly good at that. Max is so good at doing vacations, and it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. It's like on a long-term horizon, if you can't do a vacation, you're doing something wrong. You're not delegating enough, or something is right, something is off. You need to make space for your private life. I will say though, there is no going from 0 to 1 without 2 years of misery. I haven't seen any startup becoming successful without an absolute obsessed psychopath at the front for 2 years straight.
Yeah, you are our psychopath, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. There is absolute no chance without absolute obsession and sacrificing everything to make it happen. Getting it from 0 to 1 takes obsession. Yeah.
Awesome. I feel like this will be a super helpful conversation for a lot of the founders, but this is an interesting take on Interop. Like we've covered a lot of like technical stuff. We've covered a lot of personal stories as well, but this was a different take on Li.Fi and on Interop. So I hope everyone finds this useful. And thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for having me, Arjun. Amazing questions.